Well, I was born in California Gulch up towards the Yak Tunnel, and then we moved to 400 East 4th Street, and then in my early years I worked with some of my dad's partners, and they kind of worked up in California Gulch up above the Yak Tunnel. And then later I went to work at the Resurrection. This friend of mine, Fritz Hauser, Charles Hauser was his name. Anyway, he got me a job at the mine up there for ASNR in Newmont. And anyway, we worked on the train, and I did that for, I don't know, a couple of years till I got drafted for the Army. And then before that, I worked with different partners in the tunnel in California Gulch. And then I got drafted in the Army and went there a couple of years. And I got out of the Army and I went back to work in the mines again. And it was a lot of fun. Of course, the Irene that I worked at when I was pretty young, it was wet down there. And anyway, in 1953, I quit there. In 1956, I went to Climax, hired out at there, and worked there 26 and a half years till 1982 when they shut down. Yeah, my dad, he worked in the mines when he was young, and he inspired me to get started in the mines. And yeah, basically when I first started, I followed instructions from the older guys and learned how to do the drilling and the different things you did. Didn't need much skills. I learned from the older fellas, and they taught me and went from there. It was a good experience, I think, and paid good and used to make pretty good wages. Yeah, when I worked in the mines, I run locomotives, did a lot of drill machines, drilled a lot of concrete and a lot of blasting. I worked in the open pit at Climax for about 6 years doing blast. I was on the blasting crew. There was me and Buster Beck and Brenda. We were the kind of the head people on the blasting crew. And there was other women that in the open pit, they had a few women truck drivers and stuff like that. Well, I think the best that I worked at was the Yak Tunnel. And then the worst was probably the Irene, because I worked in the shaft there and you couldn't look up because the water was dripping on you all the time. You had to wear a wetsuit, and it didn't matter. Of course, it wasn't that cold down there, but you was soaking wet from head to foot. The mine, the Yak Tunnel and Newmont and ASNR, they produced lead, zinc, silver, and gold, and they made good money with that. And then the Climax mine, they produced molybdenum and tungsten and pyrite, and they made a lot of money with that. Yeah, there was accidents, and it's just like Climax. When I worked there, they used to talk a lot of safety, and people violated a lot of safety rules, and then when you got in trouble, then you was in trouble. That's how it worked. Yeah, there's people walked into blasts before. Yeah, when I worked at Climax, I worked with hang-up timberman, and I was a timberman. And then when I got to be a hang-up man, I had rocks chase me, putting bombs up in the finger once. I had rocks hit me in the hands and messed my hands up a little bit. Some close calls. Could have been killed by fallen rock. Kid I grew up with, this Charles Hauser, he got killed October 31st, 1969 at Climax, and he was a boss, and he went up in the stopes where he had people working, and it caved in on him. I don't know how much, but quite a few tons. It killed him. Yeah, I did get to see the equipment change from smaller to a lot larger. Like Climax, when they first started the open pit, they had like 35-ton trucks, and then eventually soon after, they went to the lot bigger trucks and bigger loaders. And it just got bigger. My favorite shift was swing shift, and day shift, days and swing. I didn't care for graveyard, but I did work a lot of that too, because the jobs I had at Climax required that you work different shifts. First time I was down in a mine, I enjoyed it, really did. Depths I worked in the mine, there a lot of times I didn't really know how far we were. We could have been hundreds of feet, and sometimes maybe 100 feet. And then the deepest that I do remember was 1850 at the Irene, and it didn't affect me any of. When you was underground, you were underground. It didn't really matter if I was 50 feet or 1,000. From the time I was a small kid, I really enjoyed going into the mines and working in them. And it wasn't just a paycheck, but it turned out to be real good too. I remember one time that I had like 15 checks, and the man at the office of the mine where I worked at the Yak Tunnel, he called me up and wanted me to cash the checks because he said I was messing their books up. I wished I could do that again, but it probably will never happen.